Hey fellow cyclists, if you're also having many problems with the tubeless setup, you are not alone. I'm having a problem and I need to decide whether I want to keep my bike tubeless or put in an inner tube. So come along with me as I share my latest trouble and my love-hate relationship with the tubeless setup. So let's get rolling. For those of you who are new here, welcome to the channel. Here I'm sharing cycling tips and personal experience from the road bikes. Now, before exploring the tubeless setup, I was quite happily running latest and TPU inner tube. They work well, but I decided to jump the ship to explore the hypes about the tubeless setup. It promised more comfort, lower rolling resistance, and puncture protection. It all sounds great on paper, so I have to try it out. And if you're unsure about what tubeless is all about, click on the video that I just published not long ago and come back to see the latest development. So for your background, I have been running tubeless on a few bikes, including this, for the last 2 years. It hasn't been a rosy path. I faced quite a few challenges. One of the first issues I encountered was the sealing leaking through the sidewall. Finally, it took about 120 mils of sealant to seal up each tire. It was quite a messy start, to say at least. Then I have problem with the rim tapes. It burst through the spoke hole twice, one after a Saturday cup ride and another one just transporting the bike. I was so lucky that it didn't happen while I was riding. I had to take both wheels to a bike shop to have them retaped. It cost a bit of money, but it's safety first. After the first 2 rides with the new setup, I had a puncture that it wouldn't seal. Even using a dyno plug wouldn't truly fix it. The sealant kept sipping it out and the down tube ended up covered with dry sealant. Now it has been 18 months in here, I still haven't fully cleaned it up. I had to remove and patch the tire from inside to fix it permanently. It was a real hassle. I realized dealing with all these issues just to have a good ride is overcomplicated for most cyclists. Now, the latest challenge I noticed is develop slowly after I have the rear wheel rebuilt. Currently, it leaks when I pump it up. So yet another problem to solve. As I mentioned, the problem is slowly, and I usually pump my tires to 70 psi. And that is the sweet spot for me for 30C tires. The tires lose about 15 psi in the first hour, and I pump it up and then lose another 15 psi on every subsequent day. So the tire will go flat in 3 days. So when I inspect the tires, there is no visible damage. The sidewall, the bead, everything looks good to me. So everything is pointing to an internal issue. Maybe there is damage to the rim tape, or it could be something that I never thought of. So let's take a close look inside and see what we can identify the problem. I carefully pop the tire off the rim. It might be hard to see from the distance, but I have some blanket to lay on the floor before I pop the tire off. It is not necessarily an easy job to clean up if the sealant spill out everywhere. I have a container just to store the sealant temporarily, as I plan to reuse the sealant if I'm running tubeless again later, and I guess there's nothing go to waste. After setting the tire aside, I clean up the residual sealant on the rim so that I can do a proper inspection. Now let's check the rim tape. And there is no sign of puncture, luckily, but I do notice some air bubbles between the layers of the rim tapes, and it is quite close to the valve, so I guess it could be leaking from there. Now I'm not sure if this is 100% the source of the issue, but it's definitely suspicious. So I decided to remove the valve and cut off the section of the existing rim tape and reapply a new layer of tape on top of the old one. I just roll the dice and hope it's work out okay. There is a fair chance it wouldn't work, but let's hope for the best. With the new tape in place, I reattach the tire and pull the sealant back in. Now just pumping up the tire and see how it holds. I'm keeping my finger crossed that will fix the slow leak. Well, the wheel's been sitting here for overnight. I would say come to 20-21 hours by now. So let's do a quick squeeze test. Still feel pretty solid. So I would guess it loses about 5 to 10 psi overnight, which is a relatively good result for a newly reseated tire overnight. But this is not done. I need to put it back to the bike and then take it out for a quick spin. That spin should be able to help it to sit it better. And then after that, I will observe it for the next week. And then hopefully every day I will have chance to take the bike out for a little bit of a ride as well to observe how it behaves, how it's performed, see if it's keep the air. If all things go well, it will stay tubeless, but otherwise I'll be definitely putting the tube back. So please hang around to see what is going to happen next week. All right, just come back from an awesome group ride. It has been a week. I managed to pack 5 rides and covering total of 170 kilometers. And it has been a mix of solo sprint and some group session as well. And it has been fantastic. So far, the Tubeless tire seems to be holding up pretty well, but as usual, I would like to stay on top of things, and I'll be taking a measurement shortly to make sure I get an accurate reading. But before I go into that, I'm in a dire need of some hot shower to relax this muscle, and then after that, I'll unpack a little bit more about what I learned this week and other insight about Tubeless tire setup. So hang on tight, we'll see you shortly. Alright, I'm back feeling so much better and ready to dive into all the details. So let's discuss this week's ride and how the Tubeless tire has performed. After a week of riding, and drumroll please, I find my tires lost only 5 psi. And you heard it right, it's only 5 psi. The result is such a pleasant surprise, especially considering my long traveling history with the Tubeless setup. I was prepared for the worst, and I was this close to put some tube into the tire last week. But after all the time and money invested into the Tubeless setup, and it finally held up again. With this outcome, it is clear to me that giving up Tubeless at this time isn't quite necessary just yet. And as people say, if it's unbroken, don't fix it. So I'm not making any further changes to them right now, and finger crossed this setup will last a longer time to come this time. As suggested before, it is not a rosy experience for me to set up tire Tubeless. And now I can give you my top 3 tips for a successful Tubeless setup. First, buy more sealant than you ever think you would need. Initially, I used 250 ml to set up both of my tire, which is more than most advertised amounts. My first bottle ran out before the job was even done, and I quickly realized that sealant is just a consumable and you will need to top up regularly. So now I buy it in bulk to save money. Second, don't scheme on rim tape. Invest in quality tape like Mucked Off, DT Sweets, which have worked well for me. They are more expensive, that's right, but they have proven to have a much lower chance of failure in a higher pressure, which is quite important for road bike setup. Also, taking the time to clean the rim thoroughly before applying the tapes. These give your setup the best chance to seal and avoid the leak under the tape, which what I just fixed now. And third, remember that Tubeless isn't a set and forget system. Regular check to ensure the sealant is still there, it hasn't dried out. Otherwise, you may still end up with a flat when you get a puncture. Alright, these are my top tips for maintaining a successful Tubeless setup. If you have other tips and tricks would like to share with the rider community, please pop them into the comments below and share them with us all. And together, we can make all of our rides smoother and just a little bit more enjoyable. So till next time, keep on pedaling.